Welcome back on deynonmod. Today I want to propose you a video about the unboxing and review about the Battetome FleshEater Courts for Age of Sigmar 4th edition Scavenged, released by the game shop the 30 August 2025. This is really quite amazing since the cover is that it's with a crypt card in a background that recall the carnage that it's characteristic about these FleshEater Courts. It's amazing. So remember that this will be mainly related about the background, but let's start. The back cover completely translates the vigor of the FleshEater Courts. Although we will see the colorful artwork later in the same Battetome, the grayscale effect totally renders the delusion that advances with the FleshEater themselves. Here you can see the dystopia of the FleshEater Courts, their noble vision while they delude themselves of a Bretonnian reality, contrary to the brutal decadence that represent them. Also noteworthy is the image on the side, since it shows precisely the mirror vision between what they would be perceived on the left and reality. Here are described the various contents of background and rules. Although only a quarter of the pages are dedicated to the background, it's also true that even within the parts of the rules there will be many interesting notes to read and deepen. On the page in front of it, we can see an example of the summer court conducted by Sharon in cells, all wonderful models. In the mentioned Earths, here we can see how the various FleshEaters perceive themselves as nobility and faithful servants of the former. Their relationship with Nagash and especially with Ushoran, the one who launched the Red Hereditary and the propagation of Utopia. On the side page, we can see a story about Callis and Toll in Hammeral, whom we got to know better with the Dawnbringer Crusades campaign. The story is represented by the wonderful artwork that represent the two in the situation described. Here we can see the artwork that we saw in the back cover, but this time in color. If the former gave more the idea of the delusion that begin to permeate the surrounding, here you can see the details of reality. An aberrant cardinal leads the forces of the FleshEater Courts in one of the black citadel of the Stomach's eternal reclusion to plunder it, while for them it is only a release of their imprisoned souls. In a red-stained nightmare, in this pair of pages we can see the images those has been the cover of previous FleshEater Courts Battletomes. On the left, the first edition, on the right, the second edition, still beautiful. As for the test, however, it describes the ability of the abhorrent to martial reasoning, who, in their delusions, they still apply tactics and strategies. It can also be seen from the box below, where approaches to deployment in battle with pure nobility are described. In a glorious domain, here we can see a series of peculiar pages. On the left page, a map of the occupied territories of the Samarkand, the country of the FleshEater Courts in Shaish, where you can see the houses of the families that control their respective territories. Really a very intriguing map. On the right page, we can find an image that comes from the 3rd edition Battetome of the FleshEater Courts, especially the version of the army set, and it's always wonderful. Below, it is a description of the map in front of it and the threats that are present, represented by chaotic incursions in various aspects. It's not something new, since it was also present in the previous Battetome, but it's always beautiful. All while praying for the Ushoran's return, who not explicitly stated to be him, it is the actual liege of the Samarkand. After all, we left him in the Dawnbringer Crusade campaign in Giran. But these pages doesn't end here, because we can open them up and reveal other tasty contents inside. Pay attention to the pages below, especially the one on the right. In a nest of horrors, if you open the pages, you can see something peculiar. I will deal with those on the sides shortly. But the play of both pages is really splendid, revealing in place of the previous novel version the classic dichotomy of the FleshEater Courts, the same page, but in reality. On the left side, we can see the map turning into a literal carnage, where every detail is revealed to be disfigured by remains of flesh and bones. And you can also see the details of the name changes of many localities, and also the description of the channel court, a map to study calmly. At the right side is not very different. The image of the novel becomes that of the FleshEater Court version. They are precisely the two images present in the limit battle of the third edition of the same, and also as a name for the character, Sir Morag of the Tench Cape. The touch of class is the text itself, not only the image, but also the text reproduce the previous part in a real way rather than with the delusions of the FleshEater Courts. I invite you to discover many details. In the King's Citadel, had mentioned before, Usharan was now in Giran. Here you can read the description about the new Samarkand and also see the map of its updated location after the events of the Dawnbringer Crusade campaign. In the Palace of Miracles, here is presented the reign of Metallurgica and its capital Durenberg in the realm of Shamon, and its fall at the hands of Nagash. It is also interesting to note the map of the region and its proximity to Vindicarum, events that I did not know and that are always a pleasant discovery. Here you can see a clash between the Samarkand led by Usharan and the Stormcast Eternas, I think the Harlot Knights. Beautiful miniatures of both factions, which I collect by the way, although I use envies of Eden Armor for the Stormcast. In The Carrion King, here is the description of the stories surrounding Usharan's non-life in Age of Sigmar, since the Age of Myth, his detachment from Nagash and the imprisonment that Nagash himself imposed on him, his accidental release by Sigmar, and his escape to Giran, where we found him recently, his reconciliation, whether true or not it is with Nagash, and the wall of bones and ocean surveillance that Nagash imposes on him, all of which we have known better with the Dawnbringer Crusades campaign. What Nagash and Usharan's respective plans are toward each other is not known for now. In the panel we found very interesting information left with Cormain and his rather lucid view of what FleshEater Courts actually are. In the other frame, however, it is interesting to note the reflection that continue and how the Golgenia has no place in the Necrotopia dreamed by Nagash. An analysis that really provides a lot of reflection on this beautiful vampiric bloodline. Here we can see reflections and descriptions of the leadership of the FleshEater Courts. There is a lot of information scattered and this shows that the higher the rank, the more the abhorrent is aware of its own nature, a bit like we saw earlier for Gormain, a way to understand the society of this bloodline even more fully. In Sinister Gifts, here there are many fragments of stories and quotes from the Great Courts present in the Battetome of the previous edition and also from different sources, a source of information, maps and drawings. In a spreading course, here they are described practically that they have led to the spread of delusion since the Age of Myth, resisting to the Age of Chaos and then arriving at the events of the Dawnbringer Crusade in quite a detail. Although I would recommend eventually recovering the campaign as it makes it even more adrenaline pumping. On the side we can find some rather interesting anecdotes. In Red Errantry, here is the Red Errantry, practically a cannibal crusade to support the events of the Hour of Ruin, a way to spread the Ghoul curse. Ushon himself takes part in it, now free. It is not an organized crusade, but still managed to see participation in key events. Also noteworthy is the composition of a Ushon host when he leads it into battle. In the left wing, you can read about interesting events, from the participation of the FleshEater Courts to the time of melee importance in support of Lettis against the Night Hounds, to the link with other games such as Underworld during the Nyarwood events in Gur, or even the invitation to Abraxia, an important general of Archon, to join the cannibal ranks.
Here we can see about the showcase of the Miotus of this army, and I quite love about this because you can see about schema colors, you can see about environment dedicated. For example, this one is the Nexus of the Oseboripes, simply renewed about with some details that are added and without the statue itself, and it's quite amazing because they allow you to understand that you can create some scenic views and so on that suit perfectly about this army, simply maybe adapting something that it exists yet so nice. And moreover, they give you idea about dioramas, about duels and so on, and I think that it's really quite amazing in that way. And then we can start to see about the various units that are inside this Battetome. So we have the part about the background and the Minotaur itself. Here we can start with Nagash, that is the god of Shaish, okay? At the same time, you can see much better about how its relationship with the FleshEater Courts and Ushon a bit. And here a bit more about Ushon itself. So the Minotaur, the Arthur, that it's amazing, and something more about this. We can see a lot of details along this Battetome about it. And in this box, we can find a little short story that make you understand how other races, or even its own race, it's aware of the FleshEater Courts. Because here we have a vampire that wear a Newstone to avoid to be contaminated by the delusions themselves, or better, try to be contaminated. So it's really quite nice. I quite appreciate it. And then we have the part about the other heroes. Here it's really to read and understand better about the background, the characteristic. It's really quite nice because you can understand that Gourmain, it's really, I can say, the judge. The Abhorrent Archangel, it's really the duke, okay, the one that govern around the territory. It's quite nice. The Abhorrent Gurwenden, at the end, it's the, I can say, the external controller, so the one that leads the borders. Nice. Here we can see how it's transmitted the curse itself of vampirism for this bloodline. It's quite nice. And then we had the part about the Abhorrent Gold King. Here it's quite interesting because usually we know the Abhorrent Gold King as an important model, but still here it's a sort of less noble, or better, high noble about this type of army. So it's quite, I can say, interesting about it, but nice. And we can know a bit better about the Royal Zombie Dragon, because about these ones, we have known them as Dragon, okay, because we were playing them. But because you released the new Revenant Draconid for the Sublight Gravelords, this has become a sort of Wyvern, a sort of lesser dragon and so on. So it's quite nice to see this, because in some way it developed the background, not in a good way, in my opinion, but still quite nice. But I love the Tarot Guest, so it's really quite fantastic. And then we can see the other characters that are inside. So we have the High Falcon and Fire Green, that is the only new model that we can find about this Battetome, and it's amazing. It has really quite intriguing background, and you can really know much better about him. Here, the Marosco Herald that we are known with Armbringers, the first of the books from the Dominican Crusades. The Royal Decapitator, that is simply fantastic. It's something that is quite undervaluated as background, but really, it has quite a lot of potential. Then the Vargulf Courtier, that it's not anymore a hero. And here we can find about the Minotaur themselves that are in the environment. It's fantastic. They can give you quite a lot of inspiration. I love such type of things. Then we have about the Crypt Guard and here the Morgue Knights. So the sort of elite among the cells. So it's really quite nice to see them. Then we can find about the Crypt Ghosts, that are the troops. And here the part about the Knights themselves, more than the Morgue, because here are a sort of mix between the ones that are vampires and cells. So here we have the Cryptoros and the Crypt Hunter Courtier, that it's quite nice. it's really quite amazing. Same for the Crypt Flyers, they improved quite a bit in this book. And I've had the Royal Beast Flayers. About this, they improved quite a lot as background, and now there are a lot of squads related, so it's something that it's quite worth it, it's really quite intriguing. Again, some images that are simply fantastic to see, and they are inspirational in my opinion, so I quite love about seeing these things. And then we had about the Channel Throne and the manifestations. Here the models remain the same, has changed quite a lot about the rules, so pay attention about them. And you had to decide if they are worth or not based on how you perceived the new rules, but not bad. And then we had the part about the rules.
And now it's time to move on to the rules. I'm going to make a brief test, giving some opinions. In case you want a dedicated video, let me know in the comments. A small note in advance, mechanics and rules have completely changed from what were the previous ones. Gun courts has disappeared and synergies are more intricate, so you have to read carefully and have fun creating new combinations. Let's start with the battle traits. Here the first major change is the operation of the delusions, which are now a little less countable. You can increase the basic number of them to choose from by including the various characters. I already anticipate you that there is a way to stabilize them by inserting Ushan, but you will certainly have to bear in mind that the initial delusion is extremely important, so choose it carefully. As for the basic delusion, there are to be able to run at least 4 inch for unit of FleshEater Courts and to hide the heroes on foot if within 6 inch by infantry units of at least 5 modes. The second delusion is to add 1 to the hit rolls if the charging unit start totally within 12 inch from a FleshEater Courts hero. One of the most interesting battle traits is the ability to cure all abhorrent on the battlefield by D3 in their hero phase. The old ability to summon a replacement of a serf or knight unit on the battlefield with half the number of modes remains, thus incentivating, especially for Morgeb, Cryptoros, or Flyers, the idea of taking them reinforced in the roster. Remember that only abhorrent can use it. Master Guard is always fantastic and goes in perfect combination with a battle formation that we'll see shortly. Here it allows modes with the keyword noble, so be careful since it is the characters that are not abhorrent, to replenish the serf and knight unit, although each unit can be subjected to the ability only once per turn. Each noble affects all units totally within 12 inch of the same, which is really good. Feeding Frenzy has changed completely and is now once per battle and gives a moment of excitement to the surrounding of a single hero. Add 1 to the models attacks, including companions of all FleshEater Courts. The models that are totally within 12 inch from this are included. Of course, it also involves the hero itself, so it becomes even more useful when associated with zombie, dragons, and tarot guests. So let's move on to battle formations. These have replaced the previous crit courts, although they partly recall them as an idea. Knightly echelons previous hormone to get an improved rank of 1 when you charge starting totally within 12 inch from FleshEater Courts hero. When you move in a group and you do even more heart. This is even more interesting combined at the right time with Feeding Frenzy and especially the basic delusion that allow you to increase the hit roll by 1 under the same conditions. Lord of the Manor, previous Blitter skin, this perhaps one of my favorites, especially in combination with Master Guard. Add 1 to the self modes that are brought back and eventually even knights on 4+, but only if the unit is not in combat. Despite the limitation, it remains excellent for replenishing units. The Royal Hunt, previous Morgant, this is only about serfs and units in combat, pile in and on a D3 if 2+ fatal wounds. This becomes useful more units you have in combat. Royal Menagerie, previous Crystal Girl, this is probably the best if you play zombie dragons and tarot guests unrated ones, since it removes the limitations to use the same rampage ability if totally within 12 inch from FleshEater Courts hero, and if you charge with a roll of 9 plus, you also gain first strike. Definitely good. For heroic traits, it all depends on how you want to set up the army. Stronger in Madness allow you to reduce the damage you suffer, but it's not the most important part. It's ignoring the abilities of the weapons used against the model, except for the companions. This is undoubtedly one of my favorite traits. Savage Beyond Reason increases the amount of attacks perfect for an Alpha Strike, but loses more ability longer you stay in combat. In fact, until the first combat, you have 2 extra attacks, then only 1 extra attack if you did not fight the previous turn. A knack for recaps. Cruel Taxmaster allows a single non-hero FleshEater Courts unit wholly within 12 inch to repeat the charge roll. This is useful, especially in combination with the illusion as the battle formations, but it still applies to just one. This is equivalent to have a free command skill. Among the artifacts, the choice is hard. The Splintered Femur allow a combat unit to choose rolling 2 plus on a d3 between doing mortal wounds to the enemy unit, subtracting 1 from the opponent power level until the start of your own next turn, or banishing a manifestation with which it is engaged. Very versatile even if it is not assured. Charm Investment makes the hero a priest, and if he was already a priest, is given a 1 bonus to prayers, a way to upgrade or have an alternative to an abhorrent cardinal. The Greasy Pennant allows you, if successfully on a charge, to roll a die, and if the result is greater than the opponent control characteristic or is 6, for the rest of the turn to subtract 1 from the opponent hit rolls in combat and add 1 to the hit rolls in combat to units attacking the enemy unit. This is also very versatile. The spells in this Lore of Madness are quite versatile. The ranged transformation is unlimited and on a 6 plus allow you to choose a wholly within 12 inch infantry or cavalry unit to give it an additional 2 inch to the movement and add 1 to the wound in combat. A great basic spell that creates a lot of synergies. Channel's Fist targets an enemy unit within 18 inch at 6 plus to do d3 mortal damages, and for each damage return 1 serf model of a chosen unit within, not wholly at least, but within 6 inch from the wizard. Great in combination with the battle formation Lords of the Manor. Miasma of Madness at 7 plus is all the more lethal the more dangerous the target enemy unit is that you choose within 18 inch. Until the start of your next turn, each hit roll equal to 1 in combat made by the target deals 1 mortal damage to itself, after the fight ability has been resolved. Also noteworthy is the dialogue below that underlines the permission of the delusion. And now the prayer lore. This is always a great way to diversify your options without having to resort to wizards. And remember that you have an artifact available to upgrade or have additional choices beside the Abhorrent Cardinal. Excommunication at 4 plus unlimited allows you to choose an enemy unit within 18 inch. Until the start of your next turn, you ignore all the positive modifier to save rolls, and if you get a 10 plus, you also deny the words. To take into account that a cardinal with an artifact can get the first part practically every turn at 2 plus, really very good. Channel Conviction at 4 plus chooses a FleshEater Courts friendly unit wholly within 12 inch and gives it a word 5 plus. With 10 plus at launch, you can target a second unit. Great defensive spell. The Summer King Favor at 5 plus targets a friendly unit wholly within 12 inch, excluding Nagash, and add 1 to the damage characteristic in combat for the rest of the turn. At 10 plus, you can choose otherwise that it has 2 fight abilities this turn, but the second will have fight last. a great way to increase the danger of the chosen unit. Choosing your favorite is difficult. How many priests do you want to include in your army? For the manifestation, it is present only how evoking them. For the effect, as always, you have to go and see them in the pages of the models. At least the models have remained the same. I like the image of the spider ghoul. It is very reminiscent of my spider zombies. In the box below, some quite interesting chronicles.
And I've had the part about the models, the units, and their rules. So Nagash, it's really quite nice. It's integrated quite a lot with the army, but still it's really quite expensive to play with. Ushuran is a sort of must-have for certain way to play, and it stabilizes quite a lot about the delusion. So think about, and it has really quite a synergy in the army. So it's not bad at all, in my opinion. They've had the Abhorrent Cold King on Tarot Guest, and here really, it's really quite amazing. The abilities of the Tarot Guest are fantastic. So I suggest you to think about including this, because it has quite a lot of potential. Moreover, with the combination that you can gain from the battle formation and so on, they can give you quite a lot of really crazy amount of potential that it has. Here you can see this, that it's with the Tarot Guest that make ambushes, and it's quite scary, but I love the Tarot Guest also for this. And then had the part about here, the Abhorrent Ghoul King on the Zombie Dragon. Also here it improved quite a lot, so it's nice. In my opinion, it's better than before, and it has anyway changed a lot of ways to be played, so pay attention. And here a little bit about how the Zombie Dragon can be. So nice, I quite like about this, it's quite amazing. Then we can see about here, Grand Justice Gourmet. Sincerely, it's amazing as background, but as rules, not so great, in my opinion. Okay. The Abhorrent Archlegend, it's fantastic, moreover because it can heal eventually the units, so nice. Then Ike Falconer Valgrind. Here, I admit that I quite like it's in certain ways, and for the Army of Renown, really quite interesting, but you have to play with to understand, and it's nice. And here, knowing a bit better about him, so I quite like about this little background in the middle. It's quite nice. It's interrupted a bit about the rules, but they give you more, I can say, about background. Nice. Abhorrent Cold King. Sincerely, this I'm not quite sure if I want really to play with it. It's nice, but maybe I'll choose something else, but it's still available. Then I had the Gore Warden, that it's quite nice. The Abhorrent Cardinal, that in my opinion, it's one of the best. Really, here we have a model that it's something that I include because I like the prayers about this army. The Moroscope Herald, that is quite nice. Here it's a man that can ask you yes or yes, and you will answer yes. Okay, you understand when you read about the rules for this. The Royal Decapitator, that it's simply fantastic. This I'll try to put the artifact for being priest on him, because it has quite a lot of potential in my opinion. The Gavargus Courtier, the Crypt Guard. Here it's quite nice if you want to give to a hero some save, some word, so it's quite nice. The Morgab Knights, and here is something that improved more that you see them, because they have quite a lot of potential, and the right combination, they can be quite lethal. It's nice. Then about the Crypt Hunter Courtier, and here the Crypt Ghosts and the Crypt Horrors. Sincerely, the other way to put the artifact for being a priest, I'll use on this, and I'd modify him eventually, because it has really quite an amazing combination available. It's quite nice. The Cryptoros are quite interesting in my opinion, but the ones that improved quite a lot are the Crypt Infernal Courtier and the Crypt Fighters. These are much better, because now they can be quite mobile, arrive, still shoot, because they have to arrive more than 9 inch from the opponent, but they have the shooting weapon that are 10 inch, and the combination of these two, it's really quite amazing. The Riot Beast Fairs, that I still had to think if it's worth or not, because now they have only one wood each. Here a little background about them, it's nice, I quite appreciate about them. And I've had these that are something that you have to decide. Essentially, the Channel Throne, it's something that for as they are now, the rules, I'm not so sure, because in my opinion, it's a sort of really on and off. It's work only 2 turns, almost 3. So it's don't like completely, but we see. And these manifestations instead are quite nice. These ones are almost the same. They are really quite intriguing, but the Chalice of Sharon change completely the way that it work. But still, it's nice. Simply, you have to think this not as a healing part anyway. So nice. Then about the spearhead with the channel watch. Here it's quite nice as model that has brought, so it's not bad at all. Here, how to paint. It's always quite nice to have this little guide eventually out. And then I had the part about the rules for the spearhead, and it's quite amazing. Remember that you have also the free version available. This it's quite nice because if you need, for example, some hunters, crypt horrors or so on, you can have this, and it's quite intriguing because remember that this is the same unit I made also the video about, so you can monetize or other things and make that you can have this doubled in a way or another. This unit it's always nice, and this model it's fantastic, so really quite intriguing. And then we can find the rules about the model that are included, obviously, because you have to play them. And then the Path to Glory with the Anvis of Apotheosis. I always love such part, because I hope that this Anvil of Apotheosis will become a way to make one hero, your general song that you can personalize in such ways. It will be quite amazing in my opinion that it's a matched play, official one, but still quite intriguing. And so we had the rules about that. If you're interested, it's quite that about, so it's nice. Okay, and you can have the part about the aberrant or the part about here the noble part with the cells, that it's quite intriguing. And then we move to the Army of Renown. Here the Knights of the New Samarkand, it's and it's a must, including Usharon. And sincerely, I can't say that it's better than the other one, but it's an option that you could take note, because you had to forget about some things, but you gain some options that are really quite interesting. But it's something that you have really to study about, but it's really quite nice. And then we had the Action Fist that is with the Falconer. So something that it has to must have about that. And if the one here it's about a sort of aberrant and the elite one, here we have with the cells. So it's really 2 different ways to gain quite a lot in my opinion. So not bad. It can be really quite intriguing combined with the battle formations in some way to gain even more options. So you have to think. Sincerely, a bit of pity that the Article of Power it's not anymore available, the one about making a priest, but nice. I like also this image like this. Okay, Farouk's Falconer. And then about the Regiment of Renown. So we have the FleshEater Courts, here in this case the Tarot-Guest, and here about the Scarlet Jury. Sincerely, okay, it's something that you can play, not play, it's up to you decide which one you prefer. But the Tarot-Guest, it's something that I think about, because quite a lot of potential in my opinion. Then we had the part about the references, so to have the rules fast. And then we have here the back cover that we've seen at the beginning. Here the code that obviously I did not show you, that it's about registering on My Warhammer so that you can make them available on the app. And if you buy the Battetome, I suggest you to register, because it's easier to consult eventually, so it's not bad at all. So to say about such Battetome, I think that it's a bit dichotomic as the nature of the FleshEater Courts, so technically it's perfect. Because if you go to see about BG wise, it's fantastic. It seems not to have so much of background, but at the same time it's really quite rich, and it recalls quite a lot about what happened with the parts of the campaign of the Dawnbreaker Crusade. So it's really quite intriguing, and give you a lot of little information. You have to combine them. In the madness you have to find those lucid moments, but at the same time they give you really tons of information anyway, so it's really quite nice. Moreover, I like that the background anyway it's still present even in the part about the rules, even the part about the units part, so it's really quite nice. There is more than you can think about. And if you go to see about rule-wise, I have not made a depth part about the study, but you have to understand about this Battetome better, because you have to study it to understand, because there are so many combinations that you can have quite a lot of fun. Even if you go to see about the Army of Renown, it's really quite nice. The real problem about them is that they are fixed. They have to be with or Rushan or the Falconer. So here it's the problem, because okay, nice, but at the same time it's limited. You have to include those models to be prepared. They're really quite nice once that you think that with that model it has quite a lot of characterization, because the Falconer has the serfs and the beasts. And if you go instead to see about the part of the knights with the Summer King, you have the part that you have the knights and really quite a massive amount of rules and so on. So it's nice, and you can play even with the normal rooster a lot of different ways, because the Grand Courts as missing, but at the same time are still present, because they are there. Okay, the battle formations are still the Grand Courts, simply change name. It's really quite nice, and I'm quite curious to know about your thoughts. You like or not? Because sincerely, I'm really quite controversial about. I love this Battetome, but I don't like the delusions that are not so stable. It's a strange thing, and in some way, it's quite characteristic about this army. So nice. Anyway, from deynonmod, it's everything. I invite you to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell so to receive notification about new video, to comment under here about this video, or if you want to suggest me new videos. So I hope to see you again to the next time.